good for me. Lately I was feeling like I need a purpose.
Welcome back to chapter 33. Let me see if I can get my camera focused.
Give me the impression
Right, chapter 33. You see the top of my head. Chapter 33. Alright, so let's get into our reading. Chapter 33 says, my mother met us on the stoop outside the house. She was wearing a large tent dress with long puffy sleeves. She looked calmer, rested. Her skin was evened out with a powdered mahogany glow. Joseph had driven in our station wagon while I brought Bridget in my mother's car. C'est va bien? My mother kissed Joseph 4 times on the cheek. I brought your wife and daughter back in one piece. She took the baby from my arms and shoved Mark forward to introduce himself. Mark was a bit fatter than I remembered. He was squeezed into a small grey jacket and a large pair of pants held up by suspenders. Mark recited his full name as he shook Joseph's hand. Mark has a lot of the old ways, my mother said to Joseph. The kitchen smelled like fried fish, boiled cabbage, and mayonnaise. What have you been up to? My mother asked, curling Bridget up in her arms. Bridget reached up to grab my mother's very short hair. She said, Dada, Joseph announced proudly. Even when she grows up and gets a doctorate, Mark said, it will not count as much. Mark wrapped an apron around his waist and turned over the fish in the skillet. My mother took Joseph on a tour of the house, the tour he had never gotten. He followed her obediently, beaming. She moved us into the backyard where she had placed her picnic table near her hibiscus patch. She stood over Joseph's shoulder to show him how to sprinkle chopped pickled peppers on his plantains. What kind of music do you do? Mark asked Joseph as we sat down to eat. I try to do all kinds of music, Joseph said. I think music should speak not only to the ear, but mostly to the soul. That's a very vague answer, my mother said. I think they want to know if you get paid, I said. We're not being as graceless as that, Mark said. I was thinking more in terms of merengue, calypso, soca, samba. Is there money in it? Asked my mother. I do okay, Joseph said. I play with friends when they need someone, but trust me, I have a little nest egg saved up. My mother winked for only my eyes to see. She had prepared for this, was set to make Joseph love her. I have something to tell you, she said to me. I have made a decision. Turning back to Joseph, my mother asked, is that how you bought your place in Providence? Sure is. I really was asking more about your opinion of music, Mark insisted. We hear you, said my mother. He has much of the old ways, she whispered again in my ear. Mark pretended not to hear her. Where are your roots? My mother asked Joseph as she fed plantain chunks to the baby. I was born in the South, he said, Louisiana. They speak some kind of Creole there, she said. I know it, he said. Sometimes I try to talk the little I know with my wife, your daughter. I feel like I could have been Southern, my mother said. We're all African, said Mark. No, me in particular, said my mother. I feel like I could have been Southern African American. When I just came to this country, I got it into my head that I needed some religion. I used to go to this old Southern church in Harlem where all they sang were spirituals. Do you know what spirituals are? she said, turning to Mark. Mark shrugged. I try to get him to church, my mother said, just to listen to them, but he won't go. You tell him, Joseph. Tell this old Haitian with his old ways about a spiritual. They're like prayers, Joseph said, hymns that the slaves used to sing. Some were happy, some were sad, but most had to do with freedom, going to another world. Sometimes that other world meant home, Africa. Other times it meant heaven, like it says in the Bible. More often, it meant freedom. Joseph began to hum a spiritual. Oh, Mary, don't you weep. That's a spiritual, said my mother. It sounds like voodoo song, says Mark. He just described a voodoo song. Erzuli, don't you weep. He sang playfully. I told you I could have been Southern. My mother laughed. Do you have a favorite spiritual? Joseph asked my mother. I sure do. Give us a rendition, urged Mark. You'll regret asking, said my mother. All of you will help me if I stumble. She rocked Bridget's body to the solemn lift of her voice. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child, a long ways from home. We all clapped when she was done, Bridget too. I want that sung at my funeral, my mother said. My mother's got me thinking this way. You've got to plan for everything. The day ended too soon for my mother. We never got a moment alone for her to tell me what she had decided. That night, as we said goodbye, she wrapped her arms around my body and would not let go. She will come back, Mark said, separating us. Us Kako women, she said. When we're happy, we're very happy. But when we're sad, the sadness is deep. On the ride back to Providence, Joseph kept singing my mother's spiritual, adding some bebop to the melody, as though to reverse the sad tone. Your mother's good folk, he said. I always understand why she didn't like me. She didn't want to give up a gem like you. My mother had left 2 messages on our machine by the time we got home. We had a nice day, Padre, she said when I called back. Did Joseph enjoy himself? The 2 of you go very well together. Mark thought he was old for you, but he liked meeting him anyway. She stopped to catch her breath. Are you really okay? I asked. It was wonderful to see you. The nightmares, have they stopped? I didn't tell you what I decided. I'm going to get it out of me. When did you decide? Last night when I heard it speak to me. Are you sure? Yes, I'm sure. It spoke to me. It has a man's voice, so now I know it's not a girl. I'm going to get it out of me. I'm going to get it out of me, as the stars are my witness. Don't do anything rash. Everywhere I go, I hear it. I hear him saying things to me. You 1010, Malpop. He calls me a filthy whore. I never want to see this child's face. Your child looks like Mama. This child, I will never look into his face. But it's Mark's child. What if there is something left in me, and when the child comes out, it has another face? You mean, what if it looks like me? No, that is not what I mean. Mark has no children. He must want some. If he wants some badly, he can have some. I heard Mark asking who she was talking to. I'll call you tomorrow, she said before hanging up. Pray to the Virgin Mother for me. Wow, this sounds ominous. I'm thinking that right here it tells us about her state of mind. She is not so stable. Things are happening here. Alright, so we are moving onto chapter 34. So join me in the next video to hear what chapter 34 holds for us. Bye. Thank you for joining me on this journey. If you have not already subscribed, please subscribe to my channel. Bye.